Today, we're going to be talking about personal development, like I said before. And personal development is a lifelong process. It's really a very broad area. And it's basically all about creating self-awareness by means of exploring or assessing our skills and our qualities in order to realize and maximize our full potential. And because it's a broad area, I'm just going to talk to you in this broadcast about 5 tips, 5 things that you can do to ensure that you get the maximum growth that you can achieve.
Inspire me to be a blessing.
Each and every one of us, we were created with a unique purpose in mind. We all have skills, we all have talents, we have the ability, and everything that we need for survival in life, it is already inside of us. We already have it. But before we can tap into our full potential, we first need to learn how to become aware of these giftings and these talents, how to develop it so that we can have the most maximum impact that we can have. When it comes to our gifts and talents, when we work in the area of our passion, when our work surrounds what we are passionate about, we feel alive. We feel fulfilled, we feel satisfied, we feel accomplished, we feel happy, we have energy to do what we have to do. So it's important that our work is based around what we're passionate about. But when we work outside of the areas in which we're passionate about, the opposite actually begins to happen. We feel burdened, stressed, we feel lack of energy, we're frustrated, confused. And the main important thing is we feel unfulfilled, unsatisfied, as if there is something else in life that we're supposed to be doing, or there is more in life that we're supposed to be getting out of life. Now, if you're feeling anything like that at all, what I want to do right now in giving you these 5 tips, the first we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about how to explore your gifts and your talents in order to discover your passion and how you can use your passion to create a business, so to speak, that will work for you. So if you're feeling as if there's something more in life that you should be doing, there's something that that you're not getting that connection in which you need, then this is what we need to do. And so the first thing we're going to do is, if you have a pen and a paper, I'm going to invite you to draw 2 columns on the pen and the paper, on the paper, sorry. And we're going to create 3 columns. So draw 2 lines, creating 3 columns. And on the left of the column, the first we're going to do, I want for you to label it strengths. Strengths or talents or gifts. And what we are going to do, we are going to explore your area of gifting before we go further. And so ask yourself the question, what is it that I am passionate about? What is it that I'm good at doing? What is it that I love to do? Write down everything that comes to your mind in that area, in that column. And so let me give you an example. Maybe it's a case where you're good at cooking. So if you're good at cooking, write cooking, list cooking as a talent in the left area. Maybe it's a case where you're good at planning and organizing. Maybe people are always complimenting you in that department. You write down planning, organizing, whatever it is, whatever skills or whatever talent that you can think of, write them in the left side of that column. And sometimes it can be difficult for us to assess ourselves internally and to find out what we're good at. So this is an activity that you can do with a friend. It is not something that is to be rushed. It can be very time consuming. It requires a lot of patience. But for the sake of this broadcast, we'll be moving a little bit more quickly than I would have wanted to. So at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to encourage you to ensure that you go back to this step and to explore this so that you can get a good feel as to what you're gifted in and your strengths. What is it that you are passionate about? And so after you've written down all of your skills, your talents, in the second column, I want for you to write core values. What is it that you stand for? What is it that you're about? And so let me give you an example of that. If you are someone that is passionate about spirituality or faith, you believe strongly in starting the day with a prayer and also ending the day with a prayer, then that's what you're passionate about. Maybe you're someone who, have you ever been to a bank before, for instance, and the teller begins to form a line or organize a line because it's a bit disorganized. and minutes later the line gets disorganized again, and for some reason it annoys you, then maybe it is that you're passionate about order. You love order, so that's what you value. So write order down, sorry. Maybe it's a case where you stand for family. You value family above everything. People, it could be excellence, but whatever it is that you value the most, think about it. And we want to limit this to about 2 or 3 things. Limit it to 2 or 3 things and write those down. And then I'm going to invite you to move over into the next column now. And we're going to do the last step, which is we are going to create or figure out a way in which we can create a business or service. So write business and service at the top for a heading. And we're going to infuse our core values with our passion and turn it into a business. Now, just a tip. In doing this, ensure that the area of your choice in which you're choosing, it's utilizing all of your skills and your talents. And so, for example, if you are good at planning, if you're good at writing, if you're good at graphics design, if you're good at communicating, all of that, try to find an area in which you could create or begin a career where all of those talents or most of them are utilized. And so, for example, using the same examples, if you have had listed in the left column, writing, planning, organizing, communications, graphics design, all of that, then one key area that you could write down for consideration is a marketing manager, because a marketing manager has to utilize all of those talents. They have to plan, they have to organize, they have to be good at writing, they have to be good at speaking, do a little bit of graphic design as well, so to speak. So write that down as an idea. And what I want for you to do with this step is to customize career paths or areas that interest you. And so maybe marketing manager would not interest you, but something else would. Whatever it is that you feel drawn to, whatever it is that you feel passionate about, then write that down. And that's something that we'll have to explore a little later. Now, just a tip, when you're planning on starting a business from scratch, ensure that you're tapping into a market that is profitable. Ensure that there are persons there who will be willing to buy your products or they're in need of your service. And so one thing that I would say is to listen to the complaints and the cries of your people. What need is lacking? What are people crying out for? Wherever there's a complaint, that's a great foundation for a business opportunity that you can utilize. So whatever the needs are, whatever the cries are, whatever the complaints are, look into that direction and see how best you can derive or develop a business that meet their needs. And another thing is, whenever you're choosing a particular industry to tap into, ensure that the industry is not already oversaturated, so to speak. And even if it is oversaturated, but it's an industry in which you're passionate about, it's something that you want to do, then strive to offer unique value so that your prospective clients and customers, they will keep coming back to you time and time again. So you have to be unique about what you're offering, ensure that you're offering value, and then things will happen from there. Now, what we just did, and again, I'm just reminding you, I sort of rushed through this for time's sake. What we just did, we just captured our thoughts and we derived ideas as to what we can do with our lives or what we can become passionate about to create a business from that. So what we are going to do, basically, what we're going to do with our gifts and our talents from here, it does not stop here. And many persons, they will get a thought or they'll get an idea, and a lot of times it stops there. But let me tell you something, listen, your idea could be the next big thing. Every successful business that exists today, every invention, it all started out with a thought. It was a thought that became an idea, and for that idea, a plan was created, and the steps that are necessary to make that plan come to pass was taken. So action was taken with the plan. So what I'm saying is a thought without an idea is useless, just as a plan without action is useless. So what we're doing as we are exploring our gifts and our talents, it does not stop here. After you finish, you're fine-tuning it, ensure that you create a plan for it, and ensure that you act and take the steps necessary to fulfill your plan. Now, Mr. Walt Disney, when he created Disney World, Disney World began as just a thought. It was just a thought that developed into an idea, and still, Disney World is known for its legacy. If Mr. Disney did not take the steps necessary, if he did not turn his idea into a plan and execute that plan, then nobody would know about Mr. Disney and Disney World. And the idea is whatever it is that you have come up with, do not underestimate yourself, do not underestimate your ideas, do not underestimate the intuitions or the inclinations that you're getting, because your idea could be the next big thing. So take the time necessary to refine this plan, and also to refine your ideas rather, put it into a plan and put that plan into action. And so I'm going to move on to number 2. So number 1 was discover your talents, flow in the area of your passion, so to speak, and let your passion work for you, because you'll be more effective there. And number 2 is to build confidence. A lot of people get stuck at this phase simply because they lack confidence. They're not aware of what to do, how to do it. They're nervous about doing something for the first. They're not certain what to expect. And I want to say right now that do not be afraid of making mistakes. It all depends on our perception, and it all depends on how you look at mistakes that you make. Do not be afraid of failure, because failure is a part of success, and you will never know what can happen of your idea, your dream, your goals until you try. So do not be fearful of stepping forward. And I'm going to give you 3 tips right now as to what you can do to build your confidence. And the first tip is a little bit obvious, which is to develop yourself in your area of gifting or in the area of career path that you have chosen. And so let's say, for instance, let's say you have the talent of cooking. So you want to open a restaurant business, so to speak. The first thing to do would be to develop your craft, get the necessary certification get the necessary certification that's required. Do your studies, your training. And we have so much information at our fingertips right now that if you're unable to study professional at a school for it, you can watch YouTube channels in your area of interest to develop yourself. You can read books. You can probably start smaller by doing a course. But the idea is to start somewhere to develop those skills, learn how to use those skills, and to make those skills work for you. And the number 2 is learn or gain knowledge likewise about your industry. So it's one thing to know about how to learn to cook professionally, but if you're going to enter into the restaurant business, or maybe it is that you decided that you're not going to do the restaurant business, but maybe you decide you stand for excellence, so you want to train people how to become excellent chefs, then you'll be going into the teaching business. Whatever it is, learn about the industry that you're seeking to embark on and develop your confidence from there. When you know what you're getting into, and when you have an idea as to what to expect, then that builds your confidence somehow, because we are wired in a way in which we become fearful every time we're meant to step outside of our comfort zone. We love comfort, and things that we're not used to, things that we're uncertain about, it causes us to become nervy at times. So when you develop your confidence, or you learn to build your confidence by developing your skills, learning what you're getting into, and know what to expect, then that for some reason builds your confidence. And the final tip, number 3, this will top it off. Nothing beats building your confidence like seeking experience. Seek experience in the area in which you desire to launch out in. And this is typically basically what medical students do. They spend years of training in the classroom, but 1 year is dedicated for on-the-job training, where they get the opportunity to put into practice the theories and the lessons that was taught to them. And on that spot right now, on the job, they'll be able to learn for themselves how to strategically implement those theories, and they'll see firsthand what works from what does not work. And that will build your confidence like nothing else. Take, for instance, a public speaker. Let's say you're desiring to speak publicly. You don't have a lot of experience. It's natural to feel fearful. It's natural to become nervous. Some people may be nervous to the point in which they may want to shy away from the opportunities that comes their way. But I can guarantee you, if you say yes to those invitations and if you begin to speak more often, the more often you begin to speak, then the more comfortable you'll become. And before you know it, you'll no longer be fearful of speaking because you have addressed your fears. And not just that, but you have gained experience. So you know what to expect and you know exactly, you become more comfortable with speaking, so to speak. So seek experience and build your confidence, develop your confidence. Now, number 3, what I want to say is to create a level of awareness, in which you can be mindful of those destiny killers. Because what we're talking about now, some of what I just mentioned, are destiny killers such as fear, procrastination, anxiety, doubt, these things, uncertainty. It will stop you and block you from achieving what you are supposed to achieve. So you have to be aware of these things, be mindful of these things, know that this journey is a journey of progress. We can only become successful if we decide to put ourselves out there. And it has to come to a point where we choose for ourselves and decide, what is it going to be? Are we going to stay here and settle for what we have now? Or are we going to take the bull by the horn and go for it? We have to be mindful of these destiny killers, these psychological barriers that will block us and prevent us from crossing over and entering into our destiny, such as some of what I just mentioned. Now, I want to talk about this person, Thomas Edison, whom I think he's very exemplary. He was the person who invented light bulb. And I'm telling you, he had the correct mindset, the correct attitude when it came to learning how to achieve stuff, because it is said that Thomas Edison, before he invented the light bulb, he failed 1,000 times. Now, can you imagine that? He had a dream, he had a passion, he had a vision that this could be possible. But before it became possible, he failed 1,000 times before he became successful at his 1,001st attempt. Now, this is amazing because I want to ask the question, at what point would you have given up? Let's say you have a dream, a vision, and you're going after it, and you've tried 5 times, and the strategies that you have chosen to try, it failed. Would you have stopped then? Would you have given up at your 10th try or your 50th try? Would you even have made it to 100 trials? Thomas Edison, he failed 1,000 times before he became successful in his invention. He never gave up. He had an idea, he had a thought, and he nurtured it, and he brought that thought to life. He believed in himself, he believed in his dreams. And even though he tried and he tried and he tried and he failed and he failed and he failed, he still continued to try. And at the end of the day, he became successful because he was persistent and he was very consistent in his efforts. Failure is a part of success. And in order for us to reach that level, we are going to have to adopt the right attitude and the right mindset, which is the 4th thing that I'm talking to you about now. Adapting the right attitude and having the right mindset, because our mindset is everything. It can make us or it will break us. Mindset is everything. There is no successful person on the face of this earth who have become successful without trials or obstacles. Obstacles and trials is designed as a part of our progress. But if we do not have the right attitude and the right mindset to face these trials and challenge the obstacles that lie ahead of us, then we will not be able to achieve what we could. Now, I believe that one main thing in which Thomas Edison did to achieve the results that he did was all about his perception, what he chose to focus on. Because when he was asked, he said, I've just discovered 1,000 ways how not to invent a light bulb. Or in other words, 1,000 steps to creating a light bulb. It was all about his mindset. It was all about how he perceived things. He didn't have a negative mindset that would force him to give up, but he was willing to persist. He was willing to go for it. He was willing to push through the obstacles and the hurdles that presented itself before him. And that is what I want to say to you today. When you have a dream, when you have a vision, when you have a passion, you have to come to that place where you nurture it. You have to come to that place in your mind where you're no longer adapting to a negative mindset, but a positive one. So whenever things are not working out in your favor, don't be quick to give up, but you have to be willing to persist and to push through. Know that in time, things will eventually work out if you remain consistent. But that's only it, if you remain consistent at it. So my encouragement is to keep going, because your attitude, it will make you or break you. And when we talk about our attitude, we're talking also about our quality of thoughts. Our attitude or our mindset, it has to do with those things that we're telling ourselves, those things that we're feeding ourselves with. Sometimes it has to do with the story in which we were told growing up. Maybe some of you have the mindset where I cannot accomplish anything that's good. Nothing good is for me. Some persons believe that. Maybe it is you believe that, listen, where you are, you were just meant to stay there. You are meant to stay in that situation, that position, that state. But you don't have to believe those lies that your mind are telling you, because we have the power that's given inside of us to change our lives and to turn our lives around. We just have to first be able to believe in our gifts and our talents and our vision that we have. We have to be willing to persist and to push through in order to cause those dreams to be realized. Now we have to pay close attention to the thoughts that we think about ourselves and about what we are embarking on, because our thoughts are energy. And our thoughts will attract like things towards us. And so if we're thinking negative things, then negativity is what's going to be coming at us constantly. But if we're somebody who is positive, then you will find that every time an obstacle or a hurdle presents itself before you, you're optimistic about it still, because all you're doing is you're saying that there's something else that I can do. This can work out in my favor. And you'll continue to push and to persist. So having the right mindset is everything. Adopting the right attitude is everything. And that is what we have to do. We have to learn how to persist. Now, the final thing that I'm going to talk to you about, which is the fifth thing that we can do, apply to our lives, is acquire or seek inner healing. You may ask yourself then, what does inner healing have to do with this? But it's the foundation to everything. Because before we can put ourselves up on a global scale, and before we can become the best version of ourselves or the best person who we intend to become, we have to seek healing from the soul level, because when we have unhealed wounds, it affects the way in which we see things. It affects our perception. It affects even the very way we communicate. It can affect relationships. And so if we practice because of these unhealed wounds to communicate unhealthily, then we're going to have an unhealthy life. Our communications are going to become toxic. We won't be able to accept the opportunities that are coming before us, because instead of us seeing that we can, we're going to be saying, no, I can't. This is bigger than I am. And I want to tell you this, if you believe that you can't, then chances are you won't. Because in order to have it, in order to receive it, you first have to be able to see it. And not just see it, but believe it. And then the moment your mindset now is transformed or is in alignment with your gifts, your visions, or that thought, then things will eventually line itself up and your life will begin to go into that direction. But before that can happen, we need to be able to get healing from the soul level so that we can see clearly, communicate clearly, interpret things clearly, and be more positive and optimistic about the things that we attend or intend to desire. Now, I've gone in depth into all of these things and more in a book that I've written. It's Becoming a Better You, Heal Your Soul, Heal Your Life. And believe me, I stand by this tag title. If you want your life to be healed, then get healing from the soul level. I've talked about all this and more in depth. This book, it has an entire section dedicated to personal development, an entire section dedicated to inner healing. It talks about mental blocks, how to get over these mental blocks, how to get healing from the soul level, and so much more. I'm going to invite you if you so desire. To check this out, the hard copy, the paperback, is available on Amazon. The soft copy, it is available everywhere digitally, so to speak. So depending on the version in which you want to purchase, then that would determine where you go for it. But when we're talking about personal development on a global level, it means that we have to be willing to assess ourselves, assess our gifts and our talents. What is it that I'm doing with my gifts and my talents? And I'm asking you that question. What is it that you are doing with your gifts and your talents? It makes no sense we expect to reach places or to become successful if we're not utilizing our gifts and our talents. Is or are your gifts and your talents going to waste? Is it lying dormant in you? What are you doing with it? If you nurture those things, I'm telling you, we are powerful, creative beings. Naturally, we are created to be powerful. And those gifts and those talents that's inside of us, we can stay wherever we are, no matter what part of the globe we're at. And our lives can be transformed. Our lives will never remain the same if we learn how to tap into and develop ourselves personally on a holistic level. Now I'm going to ask you at this time, if you have any questions, to just drop those questions in the comment section. And personal development, as I said before, it's a lifelong process. It's a very broad and a deep theme, and I have not exhausted a lot of what could be said, but I'm working with a limited time right here. So if there are any questions, anything at all that you desire to ask, then you can feel free to do so. And I'll take those questions at this time. Now listen, your entire life, it can turn around, it can change, it can transform on the issue of personal development. If we take this thing seriously enough, if we really acquire inner healing from the soul level, then that changes our perspective, the way in which we look at things. Because even in the workplace, let me give you an example. If we are being criticized for our professional workflow, when we have a messed up mindset, then we become offended at the criticism. But when we are able to see clearly, then we will understand that, listen, I can only use these critiques to improve myself and to become better at what I do. It changes your mindset completely, and it changes the relationships, the type of relationships that you have, because there's less friction. It's more welcoming, more inviting, and you improve yourself. This is something that we have to really think about and look at, because when we're talking about going on a global scale, likewise, we really have to learn how to get our attitude and our emotions in check. When we have unhealed wounds, chances are our emotions will be out of control. And in order for us to reach places, and in order for us to become successful, we are going to have the right attitude and the right mindset, which means that we're going to have to learn how to control our emotions. And one tip that I want to give also is, whenever you're doing anything for the first, or even not for the first, wherever you are, like I said earlier, personal development is a lifelong process. Have the attitude where you're willing to learn. So leave room for mistakes. Yes, it's good to want to do things perfectly. Nothing is wrong with striving towards perfection, but sometimes when we have that, or we adapt to that still, where we have the attitude where we present ourselves as if we know it all, or we present ourselves as if we're the next big thing, so to speak, that leaves room for errors, it leaves room for mistakes. And if mistakes are made, you'll end up feeling discouraged, disappointed, and all of that. So it's always good for us to have the right attitude, the right focus, and know that on your journey, no matter what level you're at, there's someone else who is always ahead of you, which means that there's always something that you'll be able to learn. And no matter how much you're putting forth, where people can be able to learn from you, also have an attitude of humility, where you too, you will be able to learn from others. When you have these dispositions in place, these are the very qualities and the things that will cause you to stand out above the rest. And Before you know it, your name will begin to echo in places. People will begin to recommend you because of your humility, your whole attitude, your whole disposition, and one connection will lead to a next. That's how networking begins. When your attitude is right, when your mind is right, when everything is positioned in the right way, you're seeing things clearly, you're interpreting clearly, then things will just begin to happen for you. Once you position yourself, opportunities will begin to come. And then once you're operating and flowing in your area of passion, then believe me, your passion will make the. I'm going to remind you that in the first step, go over those gifts, those talents, and refine those. Refine your thoughts, turn those thoughts into an ideas, and then after you turn those thoughts into an ideas, it will be easier for you to fuse it with your core values once you're able to identify the main thing that you stand for, the main thing that you're really passionate about. It will become much easier for you to infuse it along with that and to create a business or a service that you can offer in the area of your passion. So this is an activity you can do with a friend. Go over that and refine it or retune it. And happy planning. But remember, it doesn't stop there. You have to be able to let your plan work for you. Put your plan into action. You'll never know what can happen from it. Be willing to put your plan into action. Be willing to create that level of awareness where you ward off those destiny killers such as fear, anxiety, doubt, all of that. Be willing to build your confidence, do whatever it takes, accept those opportunities, take experiences from wherever you can get those experiences. Watch your mindset, seek inner healing from the soul level, and your life will never be the same. Pay close attention to those thoughts. Pay close attention to the surrounding, those persons who are speaking into your life, those persons who are giving you advice and all of that. Pay close attention to what you are entertaining in your spirit, because that will have an effect and an impact on you. So again, this has been Terry and Scott. I want to thank you so much for joining us into this session, this online session of personal development. I'm sorry the time was so short, but I am hoping that you have gained or grasped something from this. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. Do not forget, you can check out Becoming a Better You, Heal Your Soul, Heal Your Life. Majority of the information that I presented on was in this book, and you can find this book. The paperback is on Amazon. The digital copy is everywhere. So feel free to check it out. Put the tips into practice that I have shared, and you will only be discovering that you're becoming a better you as the days goes by. Thank you for watching, and God bless.
Inspire me.